Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers. For Thursday, Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, are the Lakers being underrated or overrated? Someone needs to make a decision. We'll do that next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every single day, at least all the weekday ones, Monday through Friday. No matter where you get your podcasts, whether that's on Spotify, whether that's on Apple where you can subscribe, or you're going to YouTube and where 36,000 plus subscribers see the show. They watch us. They see our smiling faces, Andy, on every show. No matter how or where you're getting the podcast, you're always getting it for free. We're never going to make you jump over some sort of paywall to do it. Do want to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money, where you can keep track of more of the money that you have because we're not charging you for this show. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's how the Lakers get covered, Andy, is always a fascinating thing for me because there is both, I think, a perception, and I think it's probably true, the Lakers get an enormous amount of attention. When they're good, they get a ton of attention. When they're bad, they get a ton of attention. They just get a ton of attention. But I think sometimes that equates to the assumption that they're always being pumped up, they're always being overrated and this, that, and whatever. I'm not sure that's true. I think there are times when people around basketball don't want to look like they're giving the Lakers too much shine. It's a very interesting dynamic that we're going to talk a little bit about today.
This is something I've talked about on a few different occasions on different shows. Something I've noticed in a lot of national media and podcasts that, I respect the hosts. I think they do a really good job, but you will often hear them talk for 10 minutes about why they don't want to talk about the Lakers. And we're not going to talk about the Lakers. And, there's no reason to talk about the Lakers. We're not going to get into it. And then 10 minutes pass after a bunch of Laker analysis and a bunch of Laker commentary where it's been decided we are not going to talk about the Lakers and we're going to move on. Because understandably, there can be, I think, a sensitivity towards the idea that you are using the Lakers as a way of leveraging clicks, leveraging attention, leveraging reaction, because the Lakers are not a team that pretty much anybody is indifferent towards. Like they're not a team. People either love them if you're a Laker fan, or you hate them if you're basically the other 29 teams. Fine, whatever. I'm just saying they are not, for example, the pre-Giannis Milwaukee Bucks, like a team that most people, they're around. Like the Lakers, like the Yankees, like a lot of other big market, frankly, money juggernauts can create a lot of polarized and in some ways visceral reaction. I think there are a lot of media that want to try to make it seem like they are not trying to milk the Lakers for all they're worth, even though they recognize the Lakers are worth a lot. And if they can, subtly milk some of it, they're going to, and I don't blame them. But I think it can, I think though it can color a lot of how people go about talking about the Lakers, because like you said, Brian, they don't want to seem guilty of hyping them.
And I think we have a great example of what that looks like with two guys. You talk about, we're in that time of the offseason where people are reacting to who did the best, who did the worst, all these other things. And two guys who are great around the NBA at The Athletic. You have David Aldridge. He does this every year where he has his own criteria. So it's not just straight up who are the best teams, but he ranks the 2025 offseason by team, who did the best, who did the worst, and all that kind of stuff. not saying who's going to finish ahead, but he's got his column out there. It includes the Lakers, and we'll tell you where. Meanwhile, Matt Moore, who you guys may know from this very network, Andy, Locked On Nuggets and all kinds of other stuff. He's on just about every show that the network
he and Hayes and Doug Branson do the first of the daily Locked On NBA shows. It's really good. It's actually become one of my favorite NBA shows out there, and not simply because they're on our network. The chemistry between Doug and Matt and Hayes is really good. So
Matt has a story that he wrote for Fansided, and this is the headline, kind of inspired what we're talking about here today: why the 2026 Lakers are overhyped but underrated. And now look, I think people need to understand, and I don't want to speak for Matt Moore. Maybe we'll get him on the show and he can speak for himself. But I can tell you, it deeply, deeply pains Matt to have to talk about the Lakers in really positive terms. He's still mad that the Lakers were gifted Luka Dončić, and he may never get over it.
He's become, remember the scene in Breaking Bad where Jesse breaks down talking about Wilder? He can't keep getting away with this. That's him talking about Rob Pelinka and the Lakers, and in this case, Luka Dončić seemingly falling into their laps the way Walter White seemingly skates out of every mess that he makes, personal, criminal, or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jennifer Grey to Matthew Broderick's Ferris Bueller. How is my brother always getting away with these things? It makes him very cranky. He'll tell you the same thing. But what he's talking about here, I think, is exactly right. When you look at what people are saying about the Lakers offseason, there is a trap that I think actually David Aldridge, who I deeply, deeply respect, so
one of the best out there,
and a really wonderful person, it should be noted. So he wrote this about the Lakers in their offseason. He said, skip to the part, they, noticing who they added, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, gets into the Jake LaRavia thing a little bit, but he says, quote, "We'll see if Ayton can still be a major difference maker after flaming out in Phoenix and Portland. Similarly, Smart isn't what he was in Boston, but many advanced stats show he's still one of the better defensive guards in the league, and he's better defensively than anyone else LA can roll out. Losing Dorian Finney-Smith, though, is a blow." He's got the Lakers at the 24th in terms of off-season rankings, so to speak. How did you do? He has the Miami Heat, who did basically nothing but acquire Norman Powell this offseason. He's got Brooklyn, who did the Michael Porter Jr. thing, drafted 11 billion players, none of whom seem to have any relationship to like a coherent roster building thing. Still haven't figured out what to do with Cam Thomas, and that's about it. And the Pistons, who had a pretty quiet offseason, losing a bunch of guys and adding, in terms of impact players, really Karis LeVert, I think, is the biggest name that they added, depending on what your opinion is on Duncan Robinson.
Some of what David put the Pistons at least a couple spots ahead of the Lakers for was the idea that Jaden Ivey will return.
Sure.
And a healthy Jaden Ivey is a big boost, which is totally correct. But you could also make the same argument about a totally healthy Luka Dončić, who I think everybody would agree runs circles around Jaden Ivey as a player. Jaden Ivey's
if you have to choose between the two of them,
right,
I'm going to choose Luka.
And then the only teams that David Aldridge has ahead or behind the Lakers are the Suns, who lost Kevin Durant, the Pelicans, who nobody can figure out what the F they're doing, the Raptors, who are just kind of hoping the pieces that they had meld together with everybody healthy, the Pacers, who lost their franchise face, the Celtics, who lost their best player.
And are, by the way, intentionally reshuffling the deck here. They're not going to be bad, but they are intentionally not trying to push the envelope because Jason Tatum is out.
Right. The Celtics lost a few players in Holiday and Porzingis that matter. They obviously don't have Jason Tatum for the season. The Pacers don't have Tyrese Halliburton, and Miles Turner is now in Milwaukee. And then finally, Golden State, who got an incomplete because they've quite literally done nothing. Those are the only teams behind the Lakers.
2 years ago, they called that a Palinka. So that phrase in there that David wrote, and I say this not to pick on David Aldridge specifically, but I think
he's so much better at his job than we are at ours. Like, let's make this clear.
Like, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he's going.
He is in the Hall of Fame,
right? That's right.
Remember what I said about Luka running circles around Jaden Ivey?
No, I mean
that's David Aldridge. He doesn't even have to run circles. He can just speed walk or even jog circles.
And he can hire people. He can hire people to do it for him. He didn't have to get off his ass.
Yeah, it's not worth his time to run circles.
Of course, it's not.
David Aldridge has much better things to do.
But this is the phrase that really got my attention. We'll see if Ayton can still be a major difference maker after flaming out in Phoenix and Portland. And I think that is kind of at the heart of a mistake that a lot of people make when they're talking about where the Lakers are and what they've done. And it's a mistake that our colleague Matt Moore does not make, despite how much it must tear him up inside. And that's what we're going to talk about next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether 401ks, properties, or investments. I cannot wrap my head around that. But when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, or I guess forgetting about money that you even have. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. You can link all your accounts in minutes and see clear data visuals, get smart characterizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Like my daughter, she had her first day of high school today, which means she is officially now thinking about college, which means I have to think about college and tuition and dorm expenses, and all that stuff is really daunting. Monarch Money can help me streamline the process and create a plan for this next step. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
So the mistake, Andy, I think people make is one that is reflected, and I'll give Matt the glory here because he is the guy, one of the few that I've seen this offseason who I think understands the context of these additions the Lakers have made, because there is no question DeAndre Ayton is in some ways a disappointing player. He has not, when you take a guy number one, the hope is he is, what if he could become a Hall of Famer? Or at the very least, you say like, well, this guy's going to be an all-star. He's going to be an all-star a couple times, right? Or a few times. And it just, that hasn't happened for DeAndre Ayton. I think that's fair to say. Marcus,
it's definitely
Smart,
fair to say he doesn't have any all-star appearances.
and there's never really been one. It's like where like you look at it and like, geez, Mike Conley's never made an all-star team. Like he's good enough. Like nobody's clamoring for DeAndre Ayton to get on an all-star team.
No.
Marcus Smart had a really rough season last year in terms of like perception. Like he was hurt a lot. He was let go by the Celtics. He somehow ended up a Wizard. Like your basketball career is not going well if you're trying to play meaningful basketball, and somehow you end up on the Washington Wizards.
Which, by the way, now that I think about it, could explain a lot of David Aldridge's perspective, because I'm pretty sure he's still based in DC, which means he could have seen a disproportionate amount of Marcus Smart.
Sad Marcus Smart.
That might actually be coloring his perception a little.
It could be, but like, so, and he acknowledges that Smart is both, not that long away from a DPOY season, Defensive Player of the Year, and is still a quality defender who's a step up for anything the Lakers
and that
had.
the metrics like him.
And that's the thing is like he had a really awkward and ugly season, and there is no question there are health concerns about Marcus Smart. But the metrics on him are, and our friend Crane just Smick Basketball from the Lakers Exceptionals and Pod has pointed this out a few times with a bunch of different stats that that he calculates and other things. Like, he's still graded out despite all of it. Marcus Smart still graded out as a very good defender last year. And so I'll read what Matt wrote here in his story that I think is critical for understanding the Lakers offseason. And now I'm reading from his article. When the Lakers' only major offseason additions were Deandre Ayton, Marcus Smart, and Jake LaRavia, it's easy to say they added more name power than actual impact. But it's better to think of what those players are than who they are. For example, I don't think the addition of Ayton is as adding the former number one overall pick who was shipped out from Phoenix and then waived 2 seasons later by the Blazers. Think of it simply as the Lakers added an elite pick and roll big next to Dončić. And he goes into some of Ayton's qualifications there. 6th most points per game is the roll man in pick and roll setups last season. Big lob threat, big body, can screen, navigate space. And most importantly, Andy, he's replacing Jackson Hayes in the Lakers playoff rotation. Go back. DeAndre Ayton didn't wash out of Phoenix and Portland in the sense of he was unproductive completely. He just wasn't what they wanted him to be. He still put up, he's a guy who's averaged like 15 and a half and 10 for his career, maybe a little bit higher. So he's been a very productive player.
There's also too with Phoenix and Ayton. And, while there's obviously an onus on Ayton just as a professional to remain professional during adversity, it's been very well reported that the Suns told him, if you do some of the non-superstar, non-statistically driven, non-number one overall stuff that is expected during this finals run, you embrace defense, you embrace some of the dirty work, we will reward you. Like, we will gladly, willingly reward you. He did all of that stuff and was a big part of getting to the 2021 finals for Phoenix. And then Phoenix was like, well, if you can find an offer, we'll match it. But they did a lot that I think really soured DeAndre Ayton's attitude and outlook towards that franchise his last couple seasons in Phoenix, which again, there's an onus on him to maintain the proper attitude and professionalism. Like, I'm not trying to excuse it, but Phoenix, even a lot of his detractors in the Phoenix media have said they kind of did him dirty there. And then the situation in Portland was just a mess. Like, in terms of an organization being pretty rudderless, kind of, in this post-Damian Lillard period of not exactly knowing what they were going to be, with a lot of inexperienced players and an inexperienced coach. Again, DeAndre Ayton, there is a professionalism onus upon him. But if you listen to him during his introductory press conference with the Lakers, and it's just words, he needs to back it up with actions, but for the time being, there's no opportunity. He has said in so many words, he knows he's not seen as a winning player, and it bothers him. And that he is excited to play relevant basketball again. And when relevant basketball is taken away from you, you kind of miss it. And it sounds like he misses it.
Well, I agree. And I
still got to prove it.
Yeah, of course you do. And I look, if you're ever a center who wants to rehabilitate his image and put himself in a position to get a big payday again, go find Luka Dončić and sign with his team. Go figure out a way to get to Luka's team. And he's made a lot of lesser players look really good. But I think the thing to remember here, and what Matt is getting at and what we've really tried to hammer home, is you have to compare Ayton not to what the idealized version of him is. Like, warts and all, if he corrected nothing about what people have criticized him about over the course of his career, nothing, still fell asleep defensively, still made mistakes, he's still way more productive than what the Lakers have had. at the end of last year, not when Anthony Davis was here, obviously, but in the post AD era, he is far and away their best center. He is a much better rebounder than Jackson Hayes, who will help, and that will help them defensively. It will help them on the offensive glass. That Ayton's presence there. He has a much more versatile offensive presence than Jackson Hayes, which will help Luka. It'll help LeBron. It'll help JJ Redick. It will diversify what the Lakers are able to do offensively without sacrificing that ability to get above the rim off the pick and roll. Like, there's just no scenario in which he is not 2 or 3 steps above what the Lakers were playing with at the end of last year. And that makes a huge difference. And he makes the same point about Marcus Smart. Even if he's not what he was in Boston, he's still better than what the Lakers were able to work with last year at a critical position of need. A guy who can defend backcourt players who are really, the Lakers didn't have that last year.
Not at a level that JJ Redick trusted, at least, particularly as the playoffs went along. I've already said my piece about, I think JJ could have and should have extended more trust to both Jared Vanderbilt and Jordan Goodwin during the playoffs. I think that was, frankly, a mistake by JJ. But if he doesn't trust the guys, he doesn't trust the guys. He's going to trust Marcus Smart.
Yeah, and just it will balance. Dorian Finney-Smith is no longer really a guy who can guard twos, when you might need that. It's just not something he's able to do. Marcus Smart can do 2s and 3s, where DFS was really 3s and 4s, which is something the Lakers needed less these days than they used to. It's just, there's all of these things. It's like, what are you replacing? And then I think people forget, because they were bounced, and we'll get to LeBron here in a minute, in a kind of a crazy milestone he's got. I do think people forget the Lakers won 50 games last year. Mm-hmm. It's easy to feel like it's not like they were the recency bias of them losing in the first round the way they did makes people forget.
I think especially too, because they were seen real quick. I think too, they were seen as the favorite in that series. And a lot of people, including in retrospect, us, we both thought the Timberwolves were a good team. And we took a lot of bleep from our audience for acknowledging, no, really, this team's very good. What we ultimately underestimated with Minnesota was how much the advantages that we acknowledged at the time they could potentially have over the Lakers in certain matchups or whatever really manifested. That part we totally underestimated.
Replay that series with the Lakers having a center that's more viable.
Sure.
Changes the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Crazy milestones coming up for LeBron. It seems to happen every year, but this is kind of a fun one. Andy will explain next.
So, as you noted, Brian, it is always milestone season for LeBron every year, because the guy has played longer than anybody else. He has produced at a higher level, frankly, than most people ever do, much less at this particular age, which means every year there is another record that LeBron is approaching to break. And I want to say it was ESPN, in looking ahead to some different milestones for players across the league, they noted that LeBron is very easily on pace to pass Kareem for all-time field goals made. Kareem currently has 15,837. LeBron, 15,488. Which means he's less than 400 behind Kareem. The fewest amount of field goals LeBron's ever had in a season was 422 in the 2021 season for the Lakers, and that was both COVID shortened and injury shortened. That was the year of Solomon Hill and LeBron's leg, so it played fewer there. The next fewest amount was 558. That was 2018-19 for the Lakers, which was also injury shortened. LeBron had the groin injury, the first major injury of his career. Every other season that he's played his normal amount of games, normal amount of minutes, he's had somewhere between like 600 and 700 field goals made. So short of an injury, he is on pace to easily lap Kareem, become the all-time field goals made record, and or leader, and you can add that to all the other ones. But this is what I love about this, beyond the fact that it's just acknowledging, holy crap, LeBron has done a lot over the course of his career. It allows me to bring up one of my favorite under-the-radar records in the NBA that nobody is ever going to touch, that also involves Kareem. And that is all-time 2-point field goals made. 2-point. LeBron is currently third at 12,929. He's a little bit behind Karl Malone. He will pass Karl Malone. Kareem is the leader at 15,836, the same number as before because Kareem did not take threes. That puts LeBron a little shy of 3,000 behind Kareem. The most amount of 2-point field goals
crazy.
The most amount of field goals or 2-point field goals that LeBron has ever made in his career, 2-point baskets, 536. That's the high water mark, or I should say high mark as a Laker. That's his high mark as a Laker, 536 2-point. If you use that as the standard moving forward, this high water mark as a Laker, which is pretty high, it would require LeBron playing about 5.5 more seasons at that exact pace. If, say, it leveled off to, 500, which would still be pretty good for a guy in his 40s.
A guy pushing 47, 48.
LeBron would have to play until, I'm guessing, he's about 47 or 48 to touch that. Like, that is a record that Kareem holds that nobody is ever going to touch. Like I said, it is a very under the radar, but pretty staggering record that Kareem holds. I want to say Marcus Thompson from The Athletic first brought it to my attention in an article that he wrote a couple of years ago that I was like, wait, what? I never thought about it that way. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, Kareem is ahead of everyone. Like, everyone.
It's when you both LeBron and you were just talking about this field goals made statistic and field goal attempts. You talk about 2-pointers. LeBron is a career leader in field goal attempts. He's got over 30,500 field goal attempts. LeBron, though, in just attempts, if you took LeBron and Kareem in their attempts, only their attempts, they'd be in the 50s. I'm sorry, only their makes, I'm saying, versus everybody else's attempts, they'd be in the 50s. So that's crazy. You're not counting the misses here. And what I think it's one of these things where, particularly with LeBron, because Kareem toward the very end was more of a role player, more of a guy who wasn't relied on to be, a superstar and so on and so on and so on. I don't think that's
still a good player.
Still was. Yeah, for sure. But he wasn't putting up, 20 points a game. No. He wasn't playing 35 minutes a night. He wasn't doing that stuff. It is just a reminder.
Though he was playing 31 minutes a game when he was 39.
No, look, crazy. The dude, in all of this, the yoga and the stretching and all the stuff that Kareem did, the longevity, Kareem was kind of LeBron before LeBron was. Like he was an exception to a lot of rules back then too. That's why it seemed like he was running away with all the records. I marvel at the consistency of players like that. It is so easy to forget when somebody does something spectacular and makes it routine. You lose track of how spectacular it is. Remember you're better at remembering the individual seasons, but the year, Kobe scores 81. There's 16.
That's 2006,
right? And he has whatever it was, 6 games in a row or whatever, 7 years, like we're with 50 plus. And you're aware of this is really impressive, but then he dropped, the streak is broken with some game in the mid 30s, I think it was. And you're just like, kind of an off night for Kobe. You forget just when players are so routinely good for so long, it's easy to forget. And LeBron, like Kareem did before him, but LeBron in ways that really nobody has ever done, continues to pile up excellence in incredibly profound and amazing ways. I mean, the Dodgers are experiencing a little bit of this, with Clayton Kershaw this year, who's been remarkably good and kind of surprisingly so in a bigger role than the Lakers, than the Dodgers, I think, hoped he would need to play. But, he's not quite, he's not throwing 96 anymore. And it's smoke and mirrors. It's like, and there's some old man game to what LeBron's doing, but LeBron's a lot closer to still throwing 98 than Kershaw is. And it's just easy to forget what this is. And when you bring up a number like that, it's a reminder both of what he's chasing in terms of Kareem, but also just how long guys like that have to be not just good, but great to put up those kinds of numbers.
Real quick, I have to correct myself. I had said before, Kareem's total field goals, 15,837. That is the number that LeBron is going to pass in all likelihood this year. But that is one higher than his 2-point, 15,836. I misspoke. During the 1987 season, Kareem made 1-3, bringing his career total to 1 of 18 from behind the arc. I'm guessing there was a heave involved or something.
Probably.
Or you know what? Kareem's feeling a little saucy at age 39.
You know what?
Do whatever the hell I want.
You're expanding your game, Andrew Bynum style. Locked on Lakers on YouTube.
He did actually mentor Bynum, so
he did. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the program. We will try to get Matt Moore on to force him to say nice things about the Lakers. It'll be worth it just for that. But I appreciate his work there, recognizing something that you and I have been pointing out to people. So love that validation. We will see everyone tomorrow.